After 35 years of what I thought was a perfect marriage, everything fell apart in the blink of an eye. Looking back now, I wonder if I should have seen the signs, but when you trust someone completely, you don't look for betrayal. I had worked hard all my life, building my construction company from scratch. Now, at 58, I was finally debt-free and looking forward to retirement in a couple of years. My wife and I had raised 3 wonderful children who were all married with their own kids. Life seemed perfect. That November, my wife told me she needed to attend a teaching conference in Denver. She was a high school principal, and these conferences were regular events in her calendar. I dropped her at the airport on Monday morning, planning to pick her up Thursday. She hugged me, said she loved me, and walked into the terminal pulling her small red suitcase. Later that evening, my friend Marcus, who manages our Seattle office, sent me a photo that changed everything. He was at a casino in Las Vegas for a business convention, and there in his photo was my wife sitting at a blackjack table with our family doctor. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. It was just a week before Thanksgiving, and all our kids and grandkids were coming to stay. We had plans for our annual father-son hunting trip that I've been looking forward to for months. I didn't know what to do, confront her immediately, or wait until after the holidays to avoid ruining everyone's Thanksgiving. The worst part was that just the day before she left, she had sung a solo at church. The whole congregation had praised her beautiful voice, telling me how lucky I was. Now I couldn't stop thinking about how she had stood there, singing about faith and truth, knowing she was about to betray everything we had built together. I felt completely alone. Both my brothers had passed away in recent years, and I had no one to talk to about this. Even going to our pastor didn't feel right. We've been part of that church community for decades, and I couldn't bear the thought of people knowing. After a sleepless night, I called Jackson, an old friend who practiced law. He connected me with a private investigator named Ray. We met at Jackson's office that afternoon, and they advised me on how to proceed. They recommended gathering more evidence before confronting her. I arranged for my wife's sister to pick her up from the airport. I couldn't trust myself to see her face without revealing what I knew. I went to our cabin in the mountains for a few days. It was hard not to call and confront both of them, but Jackson convinced me that keeping quiet would help protect my interests and gather more evidence. Still, every text message from her asking how I was doing felt like another knife in my heart. The next challenge was approaching Thanksgiving dinner. For the past decade, since my father-in-law passed away, I had always grilled steaks for the whole family, including my wife's 3 married sisters. My mother-in-law, now 82, always said it was her favorite meal of the year. How could I skip it without raising suspicions? I considered telling everyone I had the flu, but that would affect the hunting trip plans with my son and grandsons. In the end, I decided to go home and act normal. Ray had somehow managed to access her phone and computer while she was at work. I didn't understand the technical details, but he was now receiving copies of all her messages. I managed to get through Thanksgiving without giving anything away. Every smile felt fake. Every moment at the table was torture, but I pulled off. That weekend, she asked why I seemed distant. I blamed work stress and headed back to the cabin, telling her I needed to finalize some year-end contracts. The private investigator had gathered plenty of evidence by now, but Jackson wanted me to wait until after Christmas to act. The proof was devastating: text messages, hotel receipts, everything. One message particularly hurt, the doctor telling her she was the most beautiful woman at the funeral we'd all attended. They had been flirting right under my nose. My wife had always been attractive and took pride in maintaining her appearance. Years ago, my mother had made a comment when my wife got breast implants, saying she'll be showing those off to someone else someday. I had defended my wife then, angry at my mother's insinuation. Now those words haunted me. I decided to wait until after Christmas. My son and grandsons came up to the cabin for our annual hunting trip the week before. Those days in the woods with them were the only times I felt normal. My youngest grandson, only 12, was so excited about getting his first deer. His joy was the only thing keeping me going. Christmas Day arrived. The house was full of laughter, presents, and family. Nobody suspected the package I had prepared for my wife, all the evidence wrapped in festive paper. But watching my grandkids open their presents, seeing their innocent happiness, I couldn't do it. I couldn't destroy their Christmas memories forever. Instead, I met with our pastor the following Monday and shared everything. He helped arrange a meeting with the doctor's wife. We agreed to confront our spouses that night. I told my wife everything I knew about Vegas and demanded she write a detailed account of the affair. I warned her that if anything in her confession contradicted the evidence I had, there would be no chance of saving our marriage. The next day, I met with the hospital board where the doctor worked. By that afternoon, he was fired. That evening, I called our children over. Their mother confessed everything to them. My eldest son couldn't even look at her. My daughters cried. She went home with my youngest daughter that night. My wife's letter revealed everything. When our kids asked her why, she said she felt like an addict, knowing she was destroying her life but unable to stop. She told them no child should ever have to be ashamed of their mother's actions, that they didn't deserve this pain. The next few days were a blur. The doctor's wife sent my wife a scathing message. My children tried to take care of both of us, checking on me at the cabin, making sure their mother was eating at their sister's house. I lost 20 pounds in those weeks. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. Then things got worse. My daughters took their mother to the emergency room. She was severely dehydrated. Her kidneys weren't functioning properly, and she was showing signs of confusion. The doctors admitted her immediately. During her psychiatric evaluation, she kept insisting I had died in a car accident and was upset that they had held my funeral without her. They transferred her to a mental health facility specializing in trauma. For 10 days, she couldn't have any contact with anyone. Our middle daughter became the family contact, receiving daily updates. My sister-in-law Rosie, my late brother's wife, insisted I come stay with her for a while. She lived several hours away, and the distance helped clear my head. Rosie turned out to be exactly what I needed. She kept me busy, forced me to get a haircut, bought me new clothes, took me to social events where she introduced me with ridiculous backstories that made me laugh despite myself. She even made me get tested for STDs, saying bluntly, "No one with anything questionable is staying in my house." When she found my old underwear, she replaced them all with expensive new ones, telling me the 60s wanted their boxers back. After 2 weeks, I returned home. The doctor had moved to a different state, his house up for sale. My wife was still in treatment, using her retirement money to pay for it. She sent me letters expressing remorse and asking for forgiveness. I read them but couldn't respond. How do you respond when your entire life has been shattered? I arranged for her to move into one of my company's rental properties after her release. Our housekeeper of 20 years agreed to help care for her. My mother-in-law, after finally learning the truth, visited my wife and gave her a piece of her mind. It was the first time I'd ever heard of my gentle mother-in-law raising her voice. The rumors spread through our community like wildfire. I kept going to church, held my head high even though I felt humiliated. Threw myself into work and helping manage my son's re-election campaign. Started noticing other women for the first time in decades, which felt both exciting and terrifying. 6 months have passed now. I still attend weekly counseling sessions, which help me process everything. My wife takes medication and attends therapy regularly. She's not the confident, joyful woman I married anymore. She's broken, sad, heavily medicated. The kids want us to reconcile, but I can't. The physical affair, the lies, the planned deception, it's too much. The way she kissed me goodbye at the airport before flying off to meet him. I can't get past that. This Easter was the first in 35 years that we spent apart. Our children did their own celebrations, trying to find a new normal, I guess. I've asked my lawyer to draw up a fair settlement. She still refuses to discuss divorce, keeps asking for another chance. But how do you rebuild trust that's been so completely destroyed? The hardest part is knowing that the woman I loved, the one who lit up every room she entered, who our friends and family admired and respected, doesn't exist anymore. Instead, there's this shell of a person, consumed by guilt and regret. Sometimes I wonder if I could have prevented this somehow, if I missed the signs. But then I remember, trust isn't about watching for betrayal. It's about believing in someone completely. And when that belief is shattered, there's no going back. I don't know what the future holds. At 58, I never expected to be starting over. But life doesn't always go according to plan. All I can do now is move forward, one day at a time, try to find my own new normal in this unexpected chapter of my life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.